Captain Jake Morrison walked across the wide bridge of the U.S. Leviathan with steady steps. The massive warship moved through the dark space like a metal mountain floating among the stars. Jake had been the captain of this huge ship for 3 years now, and he still felt amazed by its size every single day. The Leviathan was the biggest warship that humans had ever built. It was 3 kilometers long and filled with the most powerful weapons and shields that Earth could make. The bridge was a large room with big windows that showed the endless black space outside. Bright stars dotted the darkness like tiny diamonds. Jake could see the front part of his ship stretching far ahead through the main window. The metal hull was covered with gun turrets and missile tubes that made the ship look like a dangerous beast ready to fight. 8,000 crew members lived and worked inside this floating city, and Jake was responsible for all of them. Jake stopped next to his command chair and looked at the control screens around him. The ship was on patrol duty in the outer edge of human space where no colonies existed. This was the frontier where human ships rarely came. Earth Command had sent the Leviathan here to watch for any threats that might come from unknown space. For months, they had seen nothing but empty darkness and distant stars. Lisa Hayes was working at her station near the back of the bridge. She was the chief engineer and one of the smartest people on the ship. Lisa took care of the massive engines that powered the Leviathan through space. She also watched the sensors that could detect things very far away. Lisa suddenly looked up from her screens with a surprised expression on her face. "Captain Morrison, I am getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors," Lisa said in a clear voice. She pressed some buttons on her control panel, and the readings appeared on the main screen for everyone to see. The display showed waves of energy that moved in patterns unlike anything they had seen before. Jake walked over to look at the sensor data more closely. The energy patterns were very organized and seemed to repeat in a complex rhythm. This was not the random energy that came from stars or planets. Something was making these signals on purpose. Jake felt his heart beat faster as he realized what this might mean. Doc Brad Cooper sat at the navigation station on the left side of the bridge. He was young, but very good at his job of guiding the ship through space. Brad checked his instruments and confirmed that the signals were coming from a point about 2 million kilometers away. The signals were definitely artificial and not made by any natural space object. "Those patterns are too organized to be natural," Brad said while studying his screens. "Something intelligent is making those signals." Captain Amy Davis worked at the communication station where she controlled all the radio equipment on the ship. She was trying to understand the strange signals that the sensors had detected. Amy had studied many different types of communication systems, but these signals were completely different from anything humans had ever made. The patterns were complex and seemed to carry information, but she could not figure out what they meant. "I cannot decode these signals, Captain," Amy reported while adjusting her equipment. "The structure is totally alien to our communication systems. Whatever is sending these signals uses technology that we have never seen before." Dr. Kevin Shaw came onto the bridge carrying a portable computer. He was the chief scientist on the ship and spent most of his time studying new discoveries. Kevin was an expert on different types of technology and alien theories. He had been working in his laboratory trying to analyze the strange signals that the ship had detected. "Captain, I have been studying the energy patterns for the last hour," Kevin said while connecting his computer to the bridge systems. "The mathematical structure of these signals shows clear signs of artificial intelligence. Based on the complexity and organization, I believe we are detecting evidence of a non-human civilization." The bridge became very quiet as everyone thought about what Kevin had just said. For hundreds of years, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. They had searched for signs of other intelligent life, but had never found any proof. Now they might be looking at the first real evidence that other thinking beings existed somewhere in space. Jake felt the weight of this moment on his shoulders. If they were really detecting alien signals, then everything was about to change for humanity. First contact with another intelligent species would be the most important event in human history. Jake had trained for many situations as a military officer, but nothing had prepared him for this possibility. "All stations, go to yellow alert," Jake ordered in a calm voice. Yellow alert meant that the ship was ready for possible danger, but not expecting immediate attack. Lights on the bridge changed to a soft yellow color, and warning sounds played throughout the ship. The crew would now be more watchful and ready to respond quickly if needed. Jake pressed a button on his command chair to open a communication channel to all parts of the ship. His voice would now be heard by every person on the Leviathan. This is Captain Morrison speaking to all crew members. We have detected artificial signals that may indicate the presence of non-human intelligence. All departments should prepare for possible first contact procedures according to Earth Command protocols. Stay alert and ready for further orders. The Leviathan continued, moving toward the source of the mysterious signals. The huge ship's engines pushed it forward through space, while its sensors gathered more information about the strange energy patterns. Jake knew that they were about to make history, but he did not know if this would be a peaceful meeting or something more dangerous. The unknown waited ahead of them in the darkness of space. Admiral Kethver stood in the command center of the Zephyrian homeworld, looking at holographic displays that showed star maps of the local galaxy. The Zephyrians were tall beings made of living crystal that sparkled with inner light. They had ruled this part of space for thousands of years and controlled dozens of smaller civilizations. Kethver was old even by Zephyrian standards and had seen many species rise and fall under their guidance. The reports on his desk told a troubling story about the humans. This new species had appeared in nearby space only a few hundred years ago, but they were expanding very quickly. Human colonies were spreading to new star systems at a rate that worried the Zephyrian leadership. Most concerning was that humans seemed to prefer independence rather than joining established galactic orders. Kethver touched one of the holographic displays with his crystalline finger, and the image changed to show human space. Red dots marked human colonies, and green lines showed their trade routes. The humans had built a network of settlements that covered a large area of space in a very short time. Their technology was advancing rapidly, and their military forces were growing stronger. They are not like the other young species we have encountered, said Counselor Morindo, who stood beside Keth. She was younger than the Admiral, but still very experienced in dealing with new civilizations. Most species accept our guidance when they first learn about the galactic community. The humans seem determined to make their own path. The approach to new species was always the same. They would make contact and offer protection and guidance in exchange for loyalty and resources. This system had worked well for millennia and created a stable region of space under Zephyrian control. Species that accepted this arrangement prospered under Zephyrian technology and wisdom. Those that refused usually found themselves isolated and eventually conquered. Kethver activated another display that showed the latest intelligence about human military capabilities. Their ships were larger and more heavily armed than most species built. Human weapons technology seemed focused on raw power rather than the elegant efficiency that Zephyrians preferred. This suggested a warlike nature that made them potentially dangerous if left unchecked. We must act before they become too strong to control, Kethver decided. Send Ambassador Cythera with a diplomatic mission. She will make contact and offer them membership in our collective. If they refuse, we will know their true intentions. Ambassador Cythera received her orders in the diplomatic section of the Zephyrian capital. She was an expert in first contact procedures and had successfully negotiated with dozens of species over her long career. Cythera believed that most conflicts could be avoided through proper communication and fair agreements. She had never failed to bring a new species into the Zephyrian sphere of influence. The ambassador prepared her ship, the Star Whisper, for the journey to human space. The Star Whisper was a beautiful vessel that represented the best of Zephyrian technology. It was only 400 meters long, but equipped with advanced shields and precision weapons. The ship's crystal hull could change colors to display different messages, and its engines left trails of rainbow light as it moved through space. Captain Vorthan commanded the Star Whisper. With a crew of 300 skilled Zephyrians, he was confident in his ship's abilities and expected this mission to follow the usual pattern. They would approach the humans, demonstrate Zephyrian superiority through advanced technology, and then negotiate humanity's peaceful integration into their civilization. Most species were impressed by Zephyrian ships and eager to learn their secrets. 3 escort ships accompanied the Star Whisper to provide additional security and make a proper diplomatic impression. These vessels were smaller but equally advanced. designed to show potential allies the benefits of Zephyrian technology. The escort ships could also serve as protection if the humans proved hostile, though this was considered unlikely as the Zephyrian diplomatic fleet traveled toward human space. They reviewed intelligence reports about human technology and culture. The humans seemed to be a young species that had recently developed faster than light travel. Their ships were crude but functional, built more for durability than elegance. Zephyrian analysts believed that humans would be eager to trade their primitive technology for access to advanced Zephyrian knowledge. The fleet entered human space without difficulty and immediately detected the large human warship that their scouts had reported. Captain Vorthan studied the sensor readings with growing surprise. The human vessel was much larger than their intelligence had suggested. It appeared to be at least 3 kilometers long and covered with what looked like weapon systems. "That cannot be accurate," Vorthan said while checking his instruments again. "No species builds ships that large unless they are trying to compensate for primitive technology." Ambassador Cythera joined the captain on the bridge to observe the human ship for herself. The Star Whisper's sensors were the most advanced available, but they seemed to be having difficulty mapping the enormous vessel completely. The human ship was so large that it filled their entire sensor screen, even at long range. Perhaps they used that ship as a mobile base rather than a warship, suggested. Young species often build large vessels to carry their entire population when they explore space. As they moved closer to the human vessel, more details became visible. The ship's hull was covered with gun turrets and missile launchers in numbers. That seemed excessive even for a warship. Energy readings showed that the vessel had power generation capabilities that rivaled entire Zephyrian space stations. The humans had built this ship like a floating fortress designed for major battles. Captain Vorthan felt his confidence beginning to waver as he realized the true scale of the human warship. The Star Whisper was a sophisticated vessel, but it was designed for diplomacy and patrol duties. The human ship appeared to be built for war on a scale that the Zephyrians had not seen in centuries. Their own largest dreadnoughts were only a fraction of this vessel's size. "Send a standard diplomatic greeting," Ambassador Cythera ordered, trying to maintain her composure. "We will proceed with normal first contact protocols. Size does not necessarily indicate capability." The Zephyrian message was transmitted to the human ship using their most advanced communication systems. The message identified them as representatives of the Zephyrian collective and offered to share knowledge and technology in exchange for peaceful cooperation. It was the same message that had successfully opened negotiations with dozens of other species. Unknown to the Zephyrians, their message was being received by humans who had never encountered alien intelligence before. The translation systems on both sides were struggling to convert concepts that had no equivalent in the other species' language. What the Zephyrians intended as a friendly greeting was about to be interpreted very differently by the human crew. The stage was set for a dangerous misunderstanding that would change both civilizations forever. Amy Davis stared at her communication console as strange signals filled the screens. The alien transmission was unlike anything in human databases, and her translation software was struggling to make sense of the complex patterns. After several minutes of computer analysis, rough translations began appearing on her monitor. The words that formed made Amy feel very uncomfortable about the aliens' intentions. "Captain Morrison, I am receiving what appears to be a message from the alien," Veselimi reported with worry in her voice. "The translation is incomplete, but it seems like they are demanding that we submit to their authority. They mentioned something about joining their collective and accepting their guidance." Jake Morrison moved to Amy's station to read the translated message himself. The alien words had been converted into English, but the meaning was still unclear. References to guided collectives and mandatory cooperation sounded like demands for surrender rather than friendly greetings. Jake had studied first contact procedures, but nothing had prepared him for aliens, who seemed to expect immediate submission. Lieutenant Commander Paul Griffin was responsible for the ship's weapons and tactical systems. He studied the alien message from his station and reached the same troubling conclusion. "Captain, this reads like an ultimatum to me. They are telling us to join their group or face consequences. That does not sound like peaceful contact." Dr. Kevin Shaw hurried to the communications Stationed with his portable computer, he had been working on the alien language patterns and believed he could improve the translation accuracy. Kevin connected his equipment to Amy's systems and began running the alien message through additional analysis programs. The language structure is very complex, Kevin explained while working. Their concepts of cooperation and guidance might mean something different to them than it does to us. We should be careful not to assume hostile intent based on poor translation. Jake nodded but remained concerned about the apparent demands in the alien message. He decided to respond with a careful diplomatic message that would test the aliens' true intentions. Jake activated the ship's main communication system and began composing humanity's first message to another intelligent species. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Leviathan. Jake spoke slowly and clearly. We greet you in peace and friendship. We are explorers seeking knowledge and peaceful contact with other civilizations. Our ship is equipped with powerful defensive systems, but we come here with no hostile intentions toward your people. Jake mentioned the Leviathan's weapons as a way to show strength while emphasizing peaceful goals. In human diplomacy, demonstrating capability was often important for establishing respect between equals. Jake wanted the aliens to understand that humanity was not weak, but preferred peaceful solutions to conflicts. The message was transmitted toward the alien vessel using the Leviathan's most powerful communication systems. Jake hoped that mentioning the ship's defensive abilities would be seen as a sign of confidence rather than a threat. Unfortunately, the alien translation systems interpreted his words very differently than he intended. Ambassador Sithara received the human response on the bridge of the Zephyrian translation systems converted the human words, but the meaning seemed aggressive and threatening. The human captain had mentioned powerful weapons and defensive systems in what sounded like a warning about their military capabilities. They are threatening us, Captain Vorthan said after reading the translated message. The human commander is boasting about their weapons and warning us not to approach. This is not the response of a species seeking peaceful contact. Sithara was confused by the human response. Most species were eager to learn about Zephyrian technology and grateful for the opportunity to join their collective. The humans seemed to be rejecting their offer and making threats instead. This was a completely new situation in her long diplomatic career. Perhaps we should demonstrate our peaceful intentions by inviting them aboard our ship, Sithara suggested. Face-to-face meetings often resolve misunderstandings that occur through electronic communication. Jake Morrison made the same decision at almost the same time. He sent another message inviting the aliens to visit the Leviathan for direct negotiations. In human culture, personal meetings were the best way to build trust and understanding between different groups. Jake believed that seeing each other in person would help both species overcome the communication problems. The Zephyrians received Jake's invitation with alarm. In their experience, requests for face-to-face meetings during first contact were usually attempts to take hostages or gain tactical advantages. No honorable species would try to lure diplomats into potential traps during peaceful negotiations. The human behavior was becoming more suspicious with each exchange. Chief Security Officer Dan Miller was monitoring the alien ships from his tactical station. His job was to watch for any signs of hostile action and protect the Leviathan from attack. Dan noticed that the alien vessels were moving into new positions around the human ship. Their formation looked like a classic attack pattern designed to target multiple sides of a larger vessel. Captain, the alien ships are taking what appears to be combat positions, Dan reported while tracking their movements. They are spreading out to surround us, and their weapon systems seem to be charging up. The alien movements triggered automatic responses in the Leviathan's defense systems. The ship's artificial intelligence had been programmed to watch for hostile actions and prepare countermeasures. When the alien vessels moved into attack formation, the AI began activating weapons and shields without waiting for human commands. Warning alarms started sounding throughout the massive warship as the defense systems came online. Red lights flashed on every deck and automated announcements told the crew to prepare for possible combat. The Leviathan's huge guns began extending from their armored housings while missile tubes filled with deadly warheads, weapons. Officer Carol Turner watched her control panels light up as the ship's arsenal prepared for battle. Hundreds of gun turrets tracked the alien vessels while the main railguns charged to full power. The Leviathan carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets, and all of it was now aimed at the small alien ships. All weapons systems are online and ready, Captain Carroll reported in a calm, professional voice. The aliens are definitely in attack formation, and our AI has tagged them as potential hostile targets. Jake stared at the tactical display showing the positions of both fleets. What had started as a hopeful first contact was rapidly turning into a potential battle. Both sides seemed to be misunderstanding each other's intentions and preparing for a fight that nobody really wanted. The future of human-alien relations hung in the balance as Finger moved closer to triggers on both ships. The Zephyrians realized too late that they had made a terrible miscalculation. Their elegant diplomatic vessel found itself facing a warship that could destroy their entire home fleet. Fear began replacing confidence as they witnessed the true scale of human military engineering. The age of easy conquest was about to end. In a burst of weapons fire that would change galactic politics forever, Captain Vorthan made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Believing that the humans were preparing to attack his diplomatic mission, he ordered his escort ships to activate their weapons as a show of Zephyrian strength. In Zephyrian culture, displaying military capability was a normal part of diplomatic negotiations between civilizations. Activate defensive systems and charge weapons to demonstrate our resolve. Vorthan commanded his escort captains. These humans need to understand that we are not defenseless. Pray they can intimidate. The 3 Zephyrian escort vessels began powering up their energy shields and weapon systems. Their hulls glowed with the distinctive blue light of charged particle beams, while deflector shields created shimmering barriers around each ship. This was a traditional diplomatic gesture showing mutual respect through demonstrations of capability. The Leviathan's artificial intelligence system detected the energy spikes from the alien weapons and immediately classified them as hostile actions. The AI had been programmed by Earth's best military minds to protect the ship from any threat. It did not understand alien diplomacy or cultural differences. It only recognized weapons being aimed at its vessel and responded according to its programming, without waiting for human authorization. 6-point defense turrets on the Leviathan's port side swiveled toward the nearest Zephyrian escort ship. The massive guns were designed to destroy incoming missiles and small attack craft. Each turret contained multiple barrels that could fire thousands of rounds per minute, using electromagnetically accelerated projectiles. The lead escort ship, commanded by Captain Yithram, was still charging its weapons when the human guns opened fire. A stream of metal projectiles moving at incredible speed struck the Zephyrian vessel's shields with devastating effect. The advanced deflector barriers that could stop asteroid impacts simply vanished under the concentrated barrage of human firepower. Yithram watched in horror as his ship's shields collapsed in less than 3 seconds. The metal projectiles punched through his vessel's crystal hull like it was made of paper. Atmosphere began venting from multiple holes, while critical systems failed throughout the ship. His crew of 60 Zephyrians found themselves fighting for their lives as their once proud warship died around them. Emergency retreat! All ships withdraw immediately! Vorthan shouted over the communication channels. The brief exchange had lasted only seconds, but it had completely changed his understanding of human capabilities. The escort ship that had taken damage was one of their newest and most advanced vessels. Watching it crippled so easily was like seeing a mountain toppled by a child's toy. Captain Jake Morrison realized what had happened and felt sick to his stomach. The automatic defense systems had fired without his permission and seriously damaged an alien vessel during what was supposed to be peaceful first contact. This was exactly the kind of incident that could start an interstellar war and destroy any hope of friendship between the species. Ceasefire! All weapons systems stand down immediately, Jake commanded. While rushing to his communication station, Amy broadcast an emergency message to the alien ships. Tell them the firing was accidental and offer immediate medical assistance. Amy Davis worked frantically to send the message while the Leviathan's guns slowly powered down. She could see the damaged alien ship through the bridge windows, trailing gas and debris as it limped away from the human warship. The sight made her feel terrible about what their technology had done to beings who might have been trying to communicate peacefully. Alien vessels, this is Captain Morrison of the Leviathan. Jake spoke urgently into the communication system. The weapons fire was an automatic response by our defense systems. We did not intend to attack your ship. We offer immediate emergency assistance and medical aid for any injured personnel. Chief Medical Officer Rachel Brooks was already preparing trauma teams and medical supplies before Jake finished his message. She had treated battle injuries during the Mars colonial wars and knew how to help people who had been hurt in space. Combat! Rachel hoped that human medical knowledge could help the aliens, even though they were a different species. Commander Steve Collins led the engineering teams that controlled the Leviathan's repair drones and emergency equipment. His people could fix almost any kind of damage to spacecraft, and he wanted to help repair the alien vessel. Steve ordered his technicians to prepare construction, robots and spare parts that might be useful for alien technology. The human response confused Ambassador Cythera and Captain Vorthan completely. They had expected the humans to either demand surrender or continue attacking until all Zephyrian ships were destroyed. Instead, the humans had stopped firing immediately and were offering medical help to their victims. This behavior made no sense according to Zephyrian understanding of warfare and conquest. Why are they offering assistance? Vorthan asked while helping coordinate the evacuation of the damaged escort ship. They have demonstrated superior firepower and could easily destroy all of our vessels. Why stop the attack and offer medical aid? Cythera studied the human messages that continued to arrive, offering help and expressing regret about the accidental shooting. The humans seemed genuinely upset about causing damage during what they still believed was supposed to be peaceful contact. This combination of overwhelming military power and moral restraint was unlike anything in Zephyrian experience. Dr. Kevin Shaw worked desperately to improve communication between the species, while medical and engineering teams prepared to help the aliens. He had made progress in understanding the alien language structure and could now translate basic concepts more accurately. Kevin realized that both sides had been misunderstanding each other's intentions from the very beginning. Captain, I believe the aliens were not actually threatening us, Kevin reported after analyzing the earlier communications. Their weapons activation appears to have been a cultural display rather than preparation for attack. We may have responded to a diplomatic gesture with military force. The damaged Zephyrian escort ship managed to dock with the Star Whisper, where emergency teams helped evacuate the injured crew members. Captain Yithram survived the attack, but his ship would need major repairs before it could fly again. The ease with which human weapons had destroyed Zephyrian defenses sent shockwaves through the alien command structure. Send an immediate report to Admiral Cythera, ordered while watching human medical drones approach to offer assistance. Tell him that we have encountered a species with military capabilities that exceed our own. Recommend immediate reevaluation of our contact protocols. The Leviathan maintained a respectful distance, while small human craft approached the alien ships with medical supplies and repair equipment. Jake Morrison had ordered his people to help the aliens while being very careful not to make any more threatening moves. The massive human warship kept its weapons powered down, despite remaining ready to defend itself. If necessary, both species now understood that they were dealing with something completely different from their previous experiences. The Zephyrians had learned that humanity possessed technology that could match or exceed their own advanced civilization. The humans had discovered that other intelligent life existed in the galaxy, and that first contact was far more complicated than anyone had imagined. Fear and respect were beginning to replace the initial confusion and hostility, as both sides tried to understand what had just happened. Admiral Kethver read Ambassador Cythera's emergency report 3 times before he could fully understand what had happened. The humans had destroyed a Zephyrian escort ship in seconds, using what appeared to be minor defensive weapons. If their point defense systems could cripple advanced Zephyrian vessels so easily, their main weapons must be capable of destroying entire fleets. The Admiral called an emergency meeting of the Zephyrian High Council within hours of receiving the report. Representatives from across the collective gathered in the crystal chambers of their capital world to discuss this unprecedented threat to their galactic dominance. For the first time in thousands of years, the Zephyrians faced a species that could challenge their military superiority. The humans have revealed capabilities that exceed our most optimistic estimates of young species development, Kethver reported to the assembled council members. Their single warship outguns our largest battle groups, and they demonstrated the restraint to avoid unnecessary destruction. This combination of power and discipline makes them extremely dangerous. Counselor Marindel studied the tactical data from the encounter with growing concern. The human warship was larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built and seemed designed specifically for warfare on a massive scale. Their technology appeared to focus on raw destructive power rather than the elegant efficiency that Zephyrian engineers preferred. "We have three options," announced War Leader Sektar, the most aggressive member of the High Council. "We can attack immediately before they grow stronger, attempt to negotiate from our current position of weakness, or try to form an alliance with them as equals." The idea of treating any species as equals was revolutionary in Zephyrian society. For millennia, they had been the dominant civilization in their region of space, with all other species serving as clients or subjects. The concept of sharing power with another civilization challenged the basic foundations of their galactic order. If we attack them now, we might prevent human expansion, but at enormous cost to ourselves, Kethva warned the Council. Their defensive demonstration suggests they could destroy multiple Zephyrian fleets before being defeated. The damage to our military would leave us vulnerable to rebellion from our client species. Meanwhile, aboard the Leviathan, Captain Jake Morrison was dealing with his own crisis of understanding. Earth Command had been contacted about the first alien encounter, and emergency sessions were being held in government buildings across human space. The accidental shooting had demonstrated humanity's military capabilities to an alien civilization that nobody knew anything about. Commander Janet Price, Jake's executive officer, coordinated communications with Earth while the crew worked to establish better contact with the aliens. Janet had served with Jake for 5 years and understood the enormous responsibility that had suddenly fallen on their shoulders. The Leviathan crew had become humanity's first ambassadors to alien civilization. Earth Command wants a full report on alien capabilities and intentions, Janet informed Jake while reviewing the latest messages from home. They are also asking for your assessment of whether these aliens represent a threat to human colonies. Dr. Kevin Shaw had made significant progress in understanding the alien language after hours of intensive work. His improved translation programs were now converting alien messages with much better accuracy. Kevin discovered that many of the early misunderstandings had resulted from fundamental differences in how the two species communicated concepts like cooperation and strength. "Captain, I believe the aliens were never actually threatening us," Kevin reported while showing his new translations. Their initial message was an offer of alliance, and their weapons display was a diplomatic gesture of mutual respect. "We have been misunderstanding each other's cultural signals from the beginning." Ambassador Sithara had reached the same conclusion about human intentions. The more she studied human responses to the encounter, the more she realized that they had never intended to attack the Zephyrian ships. The humans had been trying to demonstrate strength while emphasizing peaceful goals, which was actually similar to Zephyrian diplomatic traditions. "We must attempt direct communication with improved translation systems," Sethara told Captain Vorthan while they worked to repair the damaged escort ship. "Both species have been operating under false assumptions about the other's intentions. Clear communication might prevent this situation from escalating into actual warfare." The breakthrough came when Dr. Shaw successfully established a written translation link with Zephyrian communication systems. For the first time since contact began, both species could communicate their actual thoughts and intentions without the confusion caused by poor translation software. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Leviathan." Jake spoke carefully into the new communication system. "We deeply regret the accidental damage to your ship and wish to establish peaceful relations between our civilizations. We had no intention of causing harm during our first meeting." Ambassador Sethara responded immediately using the improved translation system. "This is Ambassador Sethara of the Zephyrian Collective. We also regret the misunderstandings that led to conflict. Our weapons display was intended as a diplomatic gesture, not a threat to your vessel. We wish to discuss peaceful coexistence between our peoples. The successful communication breakthrough changed everything for both species. The Zephyrians realized that humans were not aggressive conquerors but explorers seeking peaceful contact with other civilizations. The humans learned that they had encountered an ancient galactic civilization that controlled multiple star systems and species. Over the following days, careful negotiations began between the two fleets while they maintained a respectful distance in space. Ambassador Cythera worked with Captain Morrison to establish basic diplomatic protocols that both species could understand and accept. The talks were complicated by fundamental differences in how humans and Zephyrians organized their societies. The Zephyrians had always operated through hierarchical systems where advanced civilizations guided less developed species. Humans preferred independent cooperation between equals who respected each other's sovereignty. Finding common ground between these different approaches required patience and creativity from both diplomatic teams. Admiral Kethver eventually abandoned the collective's traditional approach to new species after receiving detailed reports about human capabilities and culture. The humans had demonstrated that they possessed both the power to resist Zephyrian control and the wisdom to avoid unnecessary conflict. Treating them as clients or subjects was clearly impossible. We must develop new diplomatic frameworks for dealing with species that can match our technological capabilities. Kethver told the High Council during their final session on the human question, "The age of easy expansion through superior technology has ended. We now face the possibility of genuine competition from equals." The negotiations concluded with both species agreeing to establish formal diplomatic relations while respecting each other's territorial claims. Humanity would not be required to join the Zephyrian collective, but would be recognized as an independent civilization with equal status in galactic affairs. Trade agreements and cultural exchange programs were established to benefit both peoples. Captain Jake Morrison signed the first treaty between humanity and an alien civilization while standing on the bridge of the Leviathan. The massive warship that had accidentally started a diplomatic crisis had become the symbol of humanity's emergence as a major galactic power. The age of human isolation was ending, but it was being replaced by respect and equality rather than submission to alien authority. The final image that both species would remember was the sight of human and Zephyrian ships maintaining peaceful formation in deep space, while diplomats worked to build a better future for both civilizations.